what's happening. Revealing some really interesting stuff. So this is the what frequency does water absorb in the near infrared range. At these specific nanometers, these four sets of nanometers, 1950, 1450, 1200, and 970. Okay, those all have wavelengths, and those are all within the megahertz to gigahertz region. Taking that, transposing that several octaves down into the audible region, we get 336.69 hertz for 1950 and so on. So what I found is that roughly the tonic of water, the tonic of in the key, so the audible key, the musical key for water to absorb near infrared range light is a slightly flattened C sharp on a guitar B string. Okay. So the tonic is C sharp, so in the key is C sharp, D sharp being the second, in C major. Now what does this mean? In my opinion, in order to generate heat within the human body, some people get cold during the winter. No one wants to be cold during the winter. Here's the solution. Figure out the lungs. Okay, so this is you can check out the website. This is a typical waveform in a spectrograph from a normal breath. It shows a typical respiratory cycle with time duration of about 35 milliseconds. Okay, so we see the first one. We see decibels over here on the right to milliseconds on the x-axis, and we can see the change in waveform over there. And then we can see plotted here, sort of like a melodyne, sort of arrows. It'll show you the average frequency of what it is. And we come to find out it is a D sharp. Obviously C sharp's down here. C sharp's like right there. D sharp's right there. And then so in other words, this is in the range. This is a healthy breathing person. This is in the range. A normal, healthy breathing person breathes harmonically, produces overtones, and produces musical sounds within the frequency band of infrared, of water in absorbing infrared light. What does this mean? Is to generate heat within the body is simply by breathing. So people can actually change the breath. And my opinion is that when you can hear any breath. When the inhale, so what happens is when you inhale sharply, the nose actually contracts. Versus if you inhale slowly. Okay, and one can control those nasal muscles. What's important about this is to generate heat within the human body is control the resonant circuit of the air cavity. What do I mean by this? Changes the geometry of it. So when you have a sharp inhale, in order to generate heat within the human body, 2 sharp inhales with 2 sharp exhales. Why does this generate heat? Now you have to have the appropriate minerals. You have to have plenty of water. You have to have water that is being absorbed. So you need to have the proper amount of salt. And by salt, I mean Celtic sea salt, Himalayan sea salt that has the trace minerals in it. Okay, I'm not talking about table salt. Table salt is horrible for you. The point is to have minerals in it in your salt, so you can absorb the water. So once the water is absorbed in the cell, then you can, through breathing, because there's water in the lungs. There's small amounts of water in the lungs because your nose naturally humidifies the air. So what I'm trying to say is that just by breathing, when you change the actual opening of the nose, you're actually changing what frequency the lungs are actually producing. You're actually changing that sound. When you change that sound, it's a range of sounds, right? It's a spectrograph, so it's a range of frequencies that you breathe in. It's like white noise. It's a range. Sounds like white noise, doesn't it? If I were to put that on a loop over and over again, it'd be white noise. that white noise, and like this is like a great idea for like white noise. Like just take breathing and then sample a breathing loop of the harmonic range of these frequencies, okay? And then play that as white noise to help generate heat within the human body. Yeah, so again, 2 sharp inhales, and for me it works like a heartbeat. And I can literally, it's like the delay time is about 2 seconds. So after you're done with that, and that was just that was 8 breaths, 8 isochronic pulsations, and I can feel heat. It's like having a mini hot flash. So I'll give a testimony of a story. I know this guy. He shall remain nameless, and he always says he's like, I'm so warm. I don't get how you're cold. How are you cold? And I think I finally figured it out. He always, like, we'd be talking, and this gentleman, his left lung collapsed, or his lung collapsed when he was born. And the same thing happened to me. My lung collapsed when I was born. I was a premature baby. I was like a month early. Anyways, the point is, he would have sharp inhales. Like, we'd be talking, and all of a sudden, like, before he would say something, he'd do that. Or when he was surprised, he would go, wow. Wow. So what he was doing, he was actually generating heat within the body because his white noise of inhale was actually absorbing infrared light. And where's infrared light at? Well, it's from the sun. But our bodies are naturally emitting infrared light, okay, just because of heat. Heat radiation is infrared light. So because the nose, let me draw it out. Draw it out, make it a little simple. More simple, make it easy to comprehend. So you have your nose. I'll just say this is your nose opening. Okay, air comes in through the nose and goes down to the lungs. Okay, that's just one example. So I can have a nose opening this big, or I can have a nose opening that big. Okay, when my size of my diameter of my tube, or my radius of my tube, my nostril, and obviously it's asymmetrically shaped. Anyways, when the radius decreases, volume decreases. When volume decreases, it's technically changing the length of a pipe. Ever seen a trombone? When you have a trombone and you change the length, DL, change the length of the pipe, you get a lower tone because the pipe is longer. As the pipe gets shorter, i.e. the radius gets smaller, you have a higher tone. So in my opinion, naturally, when you're breathing with open nostrils, you're channeling a certain set of frequencies. And that's so true. Science totally is saying this. Right here. This is what science says. Science says, oh, hey, look, we observed the lungs breathing in, a normal person breathing in. Okay? It is a typical respiratory cycle. So we're not talking about people who are like breathing in like... That's not a typical respiratory cycle. The typical respiratory cycle is something equivalent to that. And then through the spectrograph, there's clearly a band of frequencies. I'm saying that when you have a sharp inhale, you're actually amend what frequencies are being channeled into the respiratory tract by that white noise, and you are absorbing infrared light via the water that is in your lungs, that is in your nostrils, because oxygen is naturally humidified. That's the water that's being, that is infrared light is being absorbed into. The water is in your nose that humidifies the oxygen that's going into your body. Okay, so yeah, that's it. For like, and also just like good health, in my opinion, would be to attune to this tonic, tune to 273.56 hertz. Okay, it could be a major or minor key. I prefer major. Major all the way, baby. Major at the top. Go minor and then major when you get to the top. Somebody quote that. Okay, so yeah, so this key of C sharp tonic, C sharp being the tonic, the key of C sharp. Okay, now it's not a normal C sharp. Okay, normal C sharp is slightly sharped, slightly raised. I'm talking about a slightly flatted C sharp on a guitar B string. It's essentially the same 273.56 hertz. And just to check my math, you can type in a wavelength calculator and type in the speed of sound, because that's where the wave is transmitting, through the speed of sound, and then type in your lambda, your wavelength, okay? And then divide by 2. Keep on dividing by 2 until you get into the audible range, because technically it's an overtone. So this produces overtones of this frequency in its wavelength. Okay. Also, another thing, in terms of memorization, so being able to memorize something. So let's look at the digestive tract. Let's just specifically look at the intestines. Yeah, let's do that. So what I find to be interesting, like people, they want to memorize stuff. Well, you have to fix your diet. You have to have all your minerals. You have to have, in my opinion, keto is the way to go, or cyclic keto, okay? Keeping your carbs low so you're keeping your inflammation low. Keeping insulin resistance to a minimum. Okay, notice the folding, the gyri, or the folding of the digestive system, and how that is so similar to the brain. The majority of serotonin is found in the gut. Okay, if you want a healthy super brain that's a super genius brain, then you gotta have a super genius gut. Okay, it's the same thing, just temporarily rearranged. Obviously, the brain isn't made of the same stuff as intestines, yet because it has gyri and because it has serotonin, it essentially radiates sort of a similar field, and in science clearly dictates the gut-brain axis. Okay, so like there's a clear relationship between the gut and the brain. So so here's the gyri, the folds, okay, of the brain compared to the folds of the intestines. Okay. It's the same thing. It's like a mini brain. A brain in the stomach, okay? Right there. Got the gyri. The gyri interacting with the upper gyri interacting with the lower gyri. As above, so below. Okay, so how do you memorize stuff? My opinion, the majority of fruits and vegetables, like what we should naturally be eating, have the majority of them are composed of water, okay? And when we drink water and our saliva is water, you can think thoughts and swallow. You can think thoughts into your body that's made of water and then digest those thoughts. That's what I'm trying to say. So like we have the ability to imprint water with electromagnetic data. Why? Because the water is a dipole antenna naturally. Okay, H2O. Okay, it forms a triangle, forms a dipole antenna based on certain wavelengths. And our brain emits electromagnetic wavelengths our hearts emits electromagnetic wavelengths. And when we think a thought, I believe it personally, water shapes it. It receives the data and is shaped by thought. On a small level, yet on a profound and important level. Okay? So the brain absorbs information through the gut. So when I say, if I want to memorize something, I do it in digestive time. Okay? So I don't even have to be eating. I could just be swallowing. But I could say, well, I want to memorize where the frontal lobe is. Okay? So I look at it. I get into the alpha brainwave state. I put my tongue on the roof of my mouth. Okay? Then I'm thinking thoughts about the frontal lobe. Then I swallow. Okay? That's the idea. So that water in your saliva is now being digested. Okay? And that water, since it has electromagnetic imprint in it, it's going to be digested into the lower gyri down here, and then transmitted into the upper gyri up here. Now, obviously, it's about what you eat. If you have lion's mane, dark chocolate, then you're going to experience neurogenesis. So the likelihood of you memorizing something is obviously going to go up. Clearly, diet and memory go hand in hand. In terms of memorizing things, like that's my take on it in terms of how we memorize things. Obviously, we say repetition, repetition, repetition. Clearly, if one is continually thinking thoughts about what it is, and you swallow and you digest, I think that's the difference between long-term memory and short-term memory, is digestion, in my opinion. Like long-term memory, like let's say you have meat, you're eating meat, well, it could take 2 to 3 days to digest that meat. Well, if you're incanting certain things or thinking to certain things over that meat, that electromagnetic data is stored in the water of the meat, stored in its digestive process. So as it's digesting, it forms into muscle. Okay, it forms into brain, the glucose does from the all that process, all that good old biological process of the body. I'm just at a fundamental level, we imprint electromagnetic data into water via our electromagnetic thoughts and our electromagnetic words, okay, and the overtones of our sound harmonics coming out of our throat. And that allows us to memorize stuff in digestive time, okay? So the rate at which you memorize something is based on digestive time, in my opinion, based on what you have in your digestive system. Like if you eat blueberries, for example, okay, you're more likely to get into gamma naturally. Dark chocolate, you're more likely to get into gamma. So that will enhance memorization states, essentially. And then one more thing, the tongue. In terms of clicking, it may sound weird, but like clicking the tongue, like babies, they suck. But clicking the tongue, or something like that, is powerful in terms of activating the brain. Why I say this is because the skull is piezoelectric. So any sound vibration going into the piezoelectric skull is directly going to affect the magnetite in the brain at the isochronic BPM rate of tongue clicking. That's a different wave in the brain than, okay? So in order to like stimulate the brain, clicking, definitely. Clicking or just speaking. Obviously, if I'm speaking, I'm in beta right now. If I want to get into gamma, my opinion is to do sets of 3. Like that. That's how to get into gamma, in my opinion. Again, I'm just getting back to the fundamentals. In order to create heat within the human body, let's say you're outside, it's the middle of winter, and you want to generate heat. Sharp inhales, sharp exhales, generate heat. Okay, you're channeling these overtones. You're channeling these waves, and then you're channeling these overtones. Okay, why? Because when you inhale, you're actually resonating the bones. Okay, the bones emit AC electric waves, and the overtone of that AC electric wave goes into the infrared band spectrum. Okay, so you're able to absorb infrared light. Okay, that's just a simple trick on how to stay warm or how to produce heat within the human body. You want to like get up and go work out and like have youth all your life? This is the secret, okay? Being able to like move fluidly and freely without pain, okay? Make sure you have low amounts of sugar, low amount of carbs. And by low amount of carbs, I mean an optimal low amount of carbs. Make sure that you have good enough, you're going to do keto, make sure you have plenty of good protein and plenty of good vegetables and plenty of good fats. But the reality is, like, especially sugar, like refined processed sugar, eliminate that completely. And once you do that, the pain will go away. And pain goes away relative to infrared regions. People who sit in saunas, it helps them with pain. Okay, infrared saunas help with pain. It's just true. So this is like a natural way to have your own personal infrared sauna based on the divine creation of the Elohim. Okay? And obviously that can be extended for however long. But this is, like, in my opinion, the secret of how to generate heat within the human body, just by breathing. Okay? And obviously heat leads to movement, and movement leads to life. Okay? Life is movement. And motion is okay, emotion and life, they go hand in hand. So motion and life go hand in hand. So yeah, that was some things. So how to memorize stuff? You memorize stuff in digestive time based on the minerals and based on what you're digesting. Okay? You eat a Snickers bar, right? That's going to be... right? It's going to be a different effect on the brain. Like, how's the brain going to memorize a Snickers, help you memorize something with a Snickers bar? What percentage of a Snickers bar is water? Okay? Versus, like, an orange. When you eat an orange, you can imprint electromagnetic data into that orange, sent into the lower gyri, okay, via electrochemical processes, and then transcribed and imprinted permanently. Not necessarily permanently, but you get the idea. Put into the gyri, the upper gyri, okay, the upper folds. As above, so below. Okay, and then I will do a video on how electromagnetic data can affect water. A good analogy for that is like putting on a brainwave amplifier. Okay, taking that electromagnetic wave from the EEG of the brain and then turning that into terawatts of power. Okay, and then putting that over water, sending that signal into water. It's definitely going to affect water in that way. Yeah. So yeah, that's just some food for thought. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Infrared heating through breathing. Oh yeah.